Today I'm going to tell you about a police strip search of a black schoolgirl at a school in Hackney in North London. She was on her period at the time and the police suspected that she was carrying cannabis. The search happened without any other adult present in the room. The teachers were standing outside. It happened back in 2020. The teachers had contacted the police because they suspected the girl had cannabis on her. And a report just published into what happened said the whole thing was unjustified and it probably happened because of racism. By the way, a strip search is exactly that. Somebody has to take off all their clothes for the police to carry out the search. According to the report into what happened, the girl's intimate body parts were exposed and she was actually asked to remove her sanitary towel and no drugs were found. The police have apologised. The family of the girl say that she has gone from being a happy-go-lucky girl to somebody who is a recluse. She just doesn't go out. She self-harms and she doesn't speak.
Here we are again. Another case of the unsaid bully. Teachers secretly targeting black children and then being protected from being held accountable. We stand with Child Q and her family, and we want all those responsible to be fully held accountable. Have you noticed how the media headlines focus primarily on the police? No one seems to be asking questions of the school. We need to ask those questions. We really need to ask those questions. Before we go any further, let me just qualify ourselves. We are the Black Think Tank, and among our ranks, we boast 40 years of teaching experience, 15 years of school advocacy experience, which is helping parents and children when things go wrong at school for them. We help them, we get them back into school. We also have 8 years of Ofsted inspection experience, and we've owned our own educational establishment for over 25 years. We are more than experienced and qualified to look through this report and come to a conclusion that we categorically think that Child Q has been failed by this school. Something they probably don't want you to know. Now, let's go to the report and look at some of the quotes from Child Q and her aunties. Brace yourself. I need to know that the people who have done this to me can't do it to any other child ever again. Things need to change with all organisations involved. Child Q. Is it because of her skin? Her hair? This makes me sick. The fact that my child had to take her sanitary towel off and put the same dirty towel back on because they would not allow her to use the restroom to clean herself. Child Q's mother. They is the school. These quotes are from her aunt. Quote, in my personal opinion, they've got a problem with Child Q, and the aftermath is that when she sees this individual, a teacher, in school, she gets panic attacks. They, the school, are the main instigator of the exposure. She also goes on to say, Child Q was doing exceptionally well at school, top of the class. She was even prefect for one of her years. Then, for whatever reason, cracks crept in, and she appeared to be singled out by the teachers repeatedly. 2 more quotes, and then we'll move on. Quote 1. Child Q was racially profiled due to her being black and her extreme large head of locks. End quote, which basically means that Child Q was a dreadlocks. Second quote and final quote. She was made to bend over, spread her legs, use her hands to spread her buttocks whilst coughing. Oh, that was harrowing. Those are quotes from the City and Hackney report into the despicable things that happened to Child Q at school. Now, let me talk to the people I belong to. Based on our extensive experience and our bucket load of qualifications in education, we think that Child Q was institutionally Emmett Tilled. We think that Child Q was institutionally Karen'd. And we think if this school gets away with this without being held accountable, publicly accountable, other schools watching will feel they can do the same. We don't want that. It doesn't get more racially stereotypical than a teacher seeing a black child with dreadlocks and then saying they smell ganja. Search the child, find no ganja, and then decide to call in the police to do a deeper search. Now the question we have to ask is, which of the school policies says if you are searching a child and you find nothing, that you can call in the police? Which policy at this school? Because if there isn't a policy that does that, why was it done? Institutionally Karen'd, institutionally Emmett Till'd. Which member of the headship team sanctioned that call to the police? If the teacher didn't know the policy, the teacher with the dodgy sniffer dog nose didn't know the policy, the headship team should know the policy. The head should know the policy, the deputy head should know the policy, or the executive head should know the policy. Why did they sanction the call? Now, if a teacher has an opinion in a position of authority and ignores the evidence of a search, which there's no drugs, ignores the evidence and goes with their opinion, and the police and the headship team sanction that, then they are all equally culpable, all equally blamable. This is not just the police. We need to now look at the school and make sure that this school is made an example of. Because if the school didn't call the police could not be there to do what they did. It starts with the school, and we're going to address that in the rest of this video. Child Q was doing an exam on the day this happened. When the police arrived, she was in an exam. The teachers took her out of her exam to be searched by the police. Now they'd already searched her and found nothing, but felt the need to call the police, who also found nothing, and despite finding nothing, felt they needed to search further. So had Child Q remove her sanitary towel and asked her to bend and cough. And all this happened in the absence of an appropriate adult. And when I say an appropriate adult, I'm including the police. They weren't appropriate adults. The school teachers did not enter the room. So effectively, this child, Q, was in the room with two police officers all by herself. None of the teachers safeguarded her. None of the teachers safeguarded her. None of the teachers acted as an appropriate, suitable adult to safeguard her. And when they'd finished and found no ganja, she had to put back on the same sanitary towel they forced her to take off. She wasn't allowed to go to the bathroom to wash up, and she was put back into the exam room. This is Great Britain, a country where we give people money to look after Ukrainian refugees. And this is how one of our students was treated in one of our schools. All of this gut-wrenching inhumanity based on the great sense of smell of a school teacher that, according to the report, is still working at the school. Now, which school in Hackney is responsible for this inhumane act? The City and Hackney report on the events that took place said it's an academy and that it's rated good by Ofsted. We did some checking using our sources, and there are 5 academies in Hackney that are rated good. They are City of London Academy, Shoreditch Park, Skinner's Academy, the Petchy Academy, the Bridge Academy, and Mossbourne Victoria Park. The report says such a search has never taken place before. So this must be a significant event, right? We checked the policies of these schools, went online, looked at their policies. We also checked the Department for Education guidance to schools on searching students. We could find no policy online in any of these schools or any DFE guidance, Department for Education guidance, which allowed any school or teachers to call in police to search children. So why did this academy call in the police? Child Q had already been searched and they found nothing. So what was so significant about the situation that warranted police involvement? Something that had never been done before. Was it institutional Emmett Teeling? Was it institutional Karenin? Based on the information in the report, we think Child Q was singled out by the teachers, targeted, bullied. We think the teachers dog whistled to the police, and that's why this situation took place. This inhumane situation. What other explanation do you have for the school to go above and beyond what the policies allow? So, how did we get to this point where a school could single out a girl with locks and say they could smell cannabis, search her, find nothing, call the police to search her after that, neglect her while she's searched by the police, then dehumanize her, then be virtually exonerated by the local authority report on the incident? How did we get here? Was a teacher even fired? Probably not. In our experience, when local authority have to choose between protecting children or protecting schools, they invariably choose to protect the school and teachers over the child. Even if they choose to protect the child, they have very little control over academies. The elected councillors have no control over the academies, and your local MP has no say over academies either. Academies are like a law unto themselves. The elected officials in your borough cannot fire an academy teacher or head. This is not the case in the state schools. So when did we get to a point where elected politicians and local government have no control over academy school teachers and academy schools in our areas? It's absolutely no surprise to me that this is the man who is responsible for removing the local government oversight, and it's no surprise to me that in this setup, something like what happened to Child Q could take place and the teachers not be held properly accountable. Now, I know it sounds unbelievable that the elected officials in your area, the councillors, the MP, have no control over what goes on inside an academy school. I also know it sounds unbelievable that academy schools, like Child Q's school, are a law unto themselves. So let me provide you with the proof. Here is a copy of the complaints procedure from Wingfield Primary School in Greenwich. It's an academy. Let me read out what page 6 of said complaint procedure says. The local authority has no statutory powers to intervene in such issues beyond giving advice or making recommendations. There is no right of appeal to the Director of Children's Services or to members of the council. So, if you think that the local councillor can intervene in the school, this school is telling you they can't. If you think the local MP can intervene and find a remedy for you, this school, Wingfield Primary in Greenwich, is telling you in their own complaints procedure, which is public on their website, that they can't. They are telling you that the local authority, which you think could take them to task and hire and fire when necessary, they're telling you they can't. And that's not all. Well, you might be thinking, well, I'll go to the government. But before you go, you're going to need information. You're going to need documents. You're going to need the school file. Now, this is a screenshot from the Information Commissioner's Office, the ICO. Under data protection laws, you have a legal right to have access to any document the organisation owns about you. Not just this organisation, but any organisation, any school, any workplace, any government body, you have a legal right to have access to those documents. You request those documents via a Freedom of Information, otherwise known as a FOI, or a SARS, otherwise known as a Subject Access Request. However, it seems this data protection law doesn't apply to academy schools. Yes, under this data protection law, they don't have to give you your FOI or SAR. So if Child Q's family requests a school file from the Hackney Academy in order to pursue a case against the school can refuse under this law to provide them with the documents. So even the government body, the ICO, which controls data protection in the UK, has little to no control over academy schools. Do you see why what happened to Child Q at this academy school happened now? The school feels untouchable. There is virtually no external oversight of academy schools. So how are we going to get justice for Child Q? How are we going to honour our wish that this should never happen to another soul? Well, some people are going to march to the police station and shout, "No justice, no peace." We've been doing that for 50 years, and that's exactly what we've received. We've received no justice, and we've received no peace. What we at Black Think Tank are suggesting is, instead of using that energy to vent, let's use that energy to pressure the government to bring academy schools back under the jurisdiction of democratically elected officials and remove them from the cushy control and jurisdiction of the governors, them friend and friend. Ask the government to introduce policy guidance on what should happen when teachers bully students, because presently, believe it or not, the DFE have no guidance on what should happen when teachers start targeting specific students, when teachers start singling out specific students, when teachers start bullying students. There is no guidance from DFE on what you as a parent or you as a 3. Providing Child Q's family agree, make the name of the school public, remove their anonymity, and remove their perceived impunity. Suspend or fire the teachers responsible immediately and have their license removed by the TRA, the Teacher Reference Agency. These so-called teachers should never again be allowed to supervise somebody else's child after failing Child Q so miserably. To Child Q and your family, big up your status, flash your locks, and bonfire upon them demon there. This is Black Think Tank. And everything you've heard on this video was our informed opinion, our views, and only our views.